The apex predator. Let the human touch its young. And the alien girl finally believed in him. The storm hit without warning. A wall of fire and lightning tore through the sky as Captain Ryan Cole's ship, the Horizon, lost control. The metal screamed, alarms blared, and gravity twisted. Before he could even shout, the ship plunged into the atmosphere of an unknown world. Everything went black. When Ryan opened his eyes, the cockpit was silent. Smoke curled from the panels, and his vision flickered between pain and darkness. His helmet was cracked. His body hurt like every bone had been shaken loose. He stumbled out of the wreckage, dragging his emergency pack behind him. Around him stretched a vast alien jungle, glowing vines, red-leaf trees, and a thick mist that shimmered like oil in sunlight. The air buzzed with strange sounds, not wind, not machines, but something alive. "Computer," he whispered, "scan environment." No response. His wrist device was dead. For a moment, Ryan thought he was alone, but the feeling didn't last. Something was watching him. The hairs on his neck stood up. Through the mist, two bright eyes blinked, golden and unblinking. Then they vanished, leaving only silence behind. Ryan gripped his broken blaster, though he knew it was useless. "Friendly or not," he muttered, "I'm not dying on day one." He found shelter beneath a thick tree root, patched his wounds, and lit a small fire using his emergency kit. The flames burned blue. Strange fuel, strange planet. He sat there, staring at the stars above. Or maybe they weren't stars. They pulsed like they were alive, like eyes staring back. Somewhere in the dark, she was watching him. Tall, slender, and armored in bone-like plates, the alien girl crouched on a high branch. Her name was Sarah, one of the last hunters of the Verilian tribes. Her people spoke of the sky demons, Strann, beings of metal and fire that fell from the heavens to destroy worlds, and now one had landed here. She aimed her spear, ready to end the creature before it could bring ruin. But something stopped her. The demon wasn't raging or destroying. He was tending to his wound, quietly, gently. When a small glowing lizard crawled near his hand, he didn't kill it. He offered it a piece of ration bar. The creature took it, chirped softly, and left. Sarah frowned. "No destroyer feeds the weak," she whispered. Confused, she melted back into the shadows. Hours passed. The jungle never slept. Somewhere deep in the distance, something roared, long and deep, shaking the ground. Ryan froze. That sound, it wasn't thunder. Then came the tremors. Each step, heavy and slow, like mountains walking. The night creatures fled. The air turned cold. Ryan's eyes widened as he saw it, a massive shape moving through the mist. It was over 5 meters tall, scaled like black stone, with claws that sank into the ground like blades. Two molten eyes glowed in the darkness, intelligent, ancient, and merciless. The apex predator of Verilia. Ryan held his breath. He'd seen death before, but never like this. The creature stepped closer, and closer. Its shadow swallowed him. Ryan didn't run. He knew it would be useless. Instead, he slowly lowered his weapon and whispered, "Easy there. I'm not here to hurt you." The predator stopped. Steam rose from its nostrils. Its head tilted. Curious. The human didn't move, didn't tremble. For a moment, the jungle itself seemed to wait. Then, the impossible happened. The predator leaned closer, sniffed the air, and then, instead of striking, it stepped aside and walked past him, vanishing into the mist. Ryan exhaled shakily, heart pounding. He fell to his knees. "You've got to be kidding me." From the shadows, Sarah watched the whole thing. Her hands trembled around her spear. That creature had killed hundreds, even her strongest hunters. No one, not even her people's warlords, had survived its gaze. But this strange, fragile human, it had spared him. She returned to her tribe before dawn. The elders gathered in the glowing hall of roots and stone. Sarah knelt before them and said, "A sky creature has come, but the apex did not kill him." The elders stared in silence, then burst into fearful whispers. One of them, old and scarred, hissed, "Lies. The apex spares no outsider. It is the will of the planet." Sarah lowered her head. "Then the planet's will has changed." The elder slammed his staff. "No, you will not go near him again." But Sarah's mind was restless. She had seen something impossible. If the apex could trust a human, even for a breath, maybe the stories her people told were wrong. Back at his wreckage, Ryan stared at the strange claw marks burned into the dirt. He whispered, "You didn't kill me. Why?" He didn't know that somewhere high above, golden eyes were watching him again. Softer this time, not full of hate, but curiosity. In that moment, under alien skies, two worlds silently began to change. If you're enjoying this journey through unknown stars and untamed worlds, consider subscribing to the channel. There's so much more to come, and every story brings humanity a little closer to the stars. The jungle wind howled again. The apex roared in the distance, and Captain Ryan Cole prepared for the longest night of his life. Because he didn't yet know that both the alien girl and the beast would soon decide his fate. The sun rose pale and cold over Virilia. The light wasn't golden like Earth's. Here, it shimmered green, filtered through the thick leaves and clouds that glowed like liquid emerald. Captain Ryan Cole sat near the wreck of his ship, half buried in ash and roots. His hands were cut and bleeding, but he didn't stop working. He had a goal now, fix the distress beacon before this wild planet decided to eat him alive. Every noise made him glance up. Every rustle reminded him that something in this jungle was always watching. Far above him, hidden among the crimson leaves, Sarah crouched silently, her silver-blue skin blending into the light. For hours she had watched the strange man, the sky creature, the one the apex predator had spared. Her tribe called humans destroyers, heartless invaders who took what they wanted and left worlds broken. But this one didn't act like that. He didn't burn the trees for warmth. He didn't kill the small creatures that crept close to his camp. Instead, he talked to them softly, as if they could understand. Sarah's curiosity began to battle her fear. Could he really be different? Then, something in the forest changed. The birds fell silent. The air grew thick. Even the glowing vines dimmed, as if the planet itself held its breath. Sarah's instincts screamed, predator nearby. Ryan felt it too. The air trembled with distant growls, low and deep. But these were not the same as the great beast from last night. These were sharper, faster, hunters. And this time, they weren't alone. A group of Virilian warriors stepped out of the mist. Their armor was made of scales and bone, their faces hidden behind masks carved like fangs. Sarah froze. They were from her own tribe. The leader raised his spear, his voice echoing through the jungle. "By the order of the elders, the sky demon dies today." Ryan lifted his hands, showing he was unarmed. "Wait, please. I don't want to fight." But the warriors didn't understand his words. They only saw an intruder. They charged. Ryan dived behind a fallen log as plasma-tipped spears exploded into smoke and flame around him. He rolled, grabbed a shard of metal from his wreckage, and used it to deflect a strike that nearly pierced his throat. He didn't shoot back. He couldn't bring himself to kill them. These weren't soldiers. They were defending their home. From the trees, Sarah's heart raced. She couldn't reveal herself. If her people saw her helping a human, she'd be cast out, or worse. But when one of the warriors raised a spear to strike Ryan's heart, something primal inside her broke. She screamed, a sharp, shrill cry that echoed through the jungle. The warriors turned, and that's when the ground began to shake. The trees bent, the mist turned black, and the air filled with the sound of thunder. The apex predator had returned. The creature crashed through the forest, claws tearing into earth and stone. Its roar split the air like a living storm. The warriors dropped their weapons, fear flooding their faces. They tried to flee, but it was too late. The apex stood between them and the jungle. Sarah clutched the tree trunk as the massive beast lowered its head toward Ryan. Her heart froze. This was it. The apex would kill them all. But what happened next shattered everything she believed. The predator looked at the terrified human and stepped in front of him. The warriors gasped. The creature let out a deep, rumbling growl, not of rage, but of warning. It was protecting him. Ryan stood there, barely breathing. He didn't understand, but he felt it. The beast wasn't his enemy. He whispered softly, "You again. You're protecting me, aren't you?" The apex turned its head slightly, its glowing eyes meeting his. It didn't speak, but something passed between them, a recognition, a wordless understanding that went deeper than species. Then the predator roared once more, scattering the Varelian hunters into the forest. None dared to return. When the silence finally returned, Sarah climbed down from her hiding place, trembling. She approached slowly, her spear lowered. Ryan saw her, finally, face to face. He didn't reach for a weapon. He simply raised his hand, open and calm. "Are you one of them?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked between him and the predator, who still stood guard like a mountain of muscle and scales. Sarah stepped closer, stopping just a few feet away. She could feel the heat from his campfire, smell the strange scent of human blood mixed with smoke. He looked tired, weak, yet still calm. She pointed at the apex and spoke in her language, her voice shaking. "Why? Does it not kill you?" Ryan frowned. "You can talk?" He didn't understand her words, but her tone carried confusion, and something like fear. He smiled faintly. "I don't know," he said softly. "Maybe it just knows I'm not a threat." The predator snorted, as if in agreement, and turned back toward the jungle. Sarah watched the massive creature disappear into the mist again, then looked back at the human, the one the planet's guardian itself had chosen not to destroy. Was that even possible? Could a human truly earn the respect of nature's fiercest protector? Her people's legends said only the pure of heart could stand before the apex and live. But humans weren't pure, were they? She turned away quickly, confused and shaken. Her mind whispered warnings of betrayal and death, but her heart whispered something else. Maybe, she thought, this human is not the monster we feared. Back at the camp, Ryan collapsed by his dying fire. He didn't know what had just happened. He only knew that for some reason, the most dangerous creature on this planet had decided to save him, and that meant he had a chance. He glanced toward the tree line. He could have sworn he saw a silhouette watching him, tall, graceful, and shimmering in the pale green light. He smiled weakly. "Guess I've got a guardian angel now," he whispered. But the jungle didn't answer. It only stared back, waiting. because something far greater was awakening on Virilia. And before long, the line between hunter and prey would blur forever. The jungle of Virilia never slept. It whispered with voices of wind and beasts, and tonight those whispers spoke of fear. The apex predator, the ancient guardian of the planet, had spared a human. Every tribe had heard the news by dawn, and in the heart of the Virilian encampment, the elders gathered around their sacred fire, faces painted with ash and glowing sap. They spoke in low tones, their words sharp like knives. "The human must die before the balance breaks," said one. "If the apex stands with him, then the beast is corrupted," said another. "Or perhaps," whispered the oldest among them, "the planet itself has chosen him." At those words, silence fell. Standing in the shadows, Sarah clenched her fists. She could still see the human's face in her mind, tired, bruised, yet calm. And she could still hear the sound of the apex's breath as it stood between him and her warriors. No one had ever seen such a thing, not even the old stories told of the apex protecting another being. Her heart refused to believe it was a lie. That night, Sarah sat alone on the cliff above her village, watching the twin moons rise. Their light touched the scars on her arms, marks of the hunter caste. She had earned every one through blood and trial. And now, she was questioning everything her people taught her. Humans destroy. Humans bring ruin. They come with fire and take without mercy. But the one she saw, Ryan, had not burned, had not killed, had not even fought back. He'd spared her tribe when he could have slaughtered them with the strange metal fire that slept in his wreck. He had every reason to hate them, yet he didn't. Sarah's thoughts were interrupted by a soft movement behind her. It was Rayton, her closest friend and hunting partner. "Sarah," Rayton said quietly, "the elders know you watched the fight. They want your words at dawn." Sarah looked away. "They will call me a liar." "Then lie," Rayton said quickly. "Say the apex was angry. Say it drove the human away. If you tell them it protected him, they will banish you, or worse." Sarah turned to face her friend. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "I saw what I saw." Rayton's face hardened. "Then you are already lost." He left without another word, fading into the mist. When the first light broke, Sarah stood before the circle of elders. The air was heavy with incense and judgment. The high elder leaned forward, his voice deep. "You will speak truth, daughter of the hunt. What did the apex do?" Sarah took a breath. "It protected him." Gasps filled the hall. "The apex stood between the human and our warriors," she continued. "It spared him. It drove our hunters away." The elder slammed his staff against the ground. "Blasphemy! The apex protects only the heart of Virilia. If it shields this creature, then he is part of its will, or he has cursed it." Another elder hissed, "Kill him before he poisons the land." Sarah's voice trembled but did not break. "If the planet wanted him dead, it would not have spared him. I think he means no harm." The room fell silent. Then came the words she feared most. "Then you will find him again," said the high elder, "and prove your loyalty. Bring us his head, or never return." The jungle swallowed her as she left the village. Each step she took was heavy, her heart torn between duty and belief. Sarah could feel eyes watching her from the dark, predators, spirits, maybe even the apex itself. The forest seemed to breathe around her, whispering secrets she didn't understand. After hours of walking, she found the clearing, the place where the human's wreck still burned faintly under layers of mist. Ryan was there, alive. He was trying to repair a metal panel, his face streaked with oil and exhaustion, and he saw her emerge from the mist. He froze. They stared at each other in silence, two beings from different worlds bound by one strange miracle. Ryan spoke first, voice soft. "You again. You're not here to kill me, are you?" Sarah's spear lowered slightly. "If I was, you'd already be dead." He smiled weakly. "Fair point." They stood like that for a long time, the air thick with unspoken things. Then Ryan sat down by his small fire and motioned to the space across from him. "Sit. You don't have to trust me, but maybe you should eat something." Sarah hesitated. No alien had ever offered her food. Her people said sharing a meal with an outsider cursed your blood, but she remembered the way he'd refused to fight, even when attacked, and how the Apex had protected him. So she sat. Ryan handed her a small packet of dehydrated food. "It's not much, but it's safe." She sniffed it carefully, then took a cautious bite. It was bland, no taste, no spice, but it was warm. For a few moments, the two just sat there, the jungle humming quietly around them. No war, no hate, just two survivors breathing the same air. Sarah spoke first. "Why didn't you kill us? You could have." Ryan looked up, surprised. "Kill you? Why would I? You were attacked. You could have fought back, but you didn't." He smiled sadly. "Because where I come from, killing someone who's scared doesn't make you strong. It just makes you something worse." Sarah didn't answer. She just stared at him, this fragile being of flesh and kindness, and for the first time, she saw humanity not as monsters, but as something familiar, something worth understanding. The apex roared somewhere far away, a distant echo that shook the leaves. Both of them turned their heads, listening. Ryan's hand moved toward his weapon, but Sarah raised her hand gently. "No," she said, "it will not come for you. It watches from afar." He blinked. "You think it's protecting me?" She hesitated, then whispered, "No, I think it's watching what you become." Hours passed. The two spoke little, but something began to grow between them, a quiet understanding that didn't need words. When night fell, Sarah stood to leave. Ryan called after her, "Will I see you again?" She didn't answer. She wanted to say no. She needed to say no, but her heart refused. Before disappearing into the mist, she turned slightly and said, "The elders will come for you. Be ready." Then she was gone. As she walked back through the glowing forest, her thoughts battled inside her. She had been sent to kill him, yet she couldn't. Her duty said one thing. Her heart said another, and somewhere in the distance the apex roared again, as if the planet itself was waiting for her choice. Because soon the fate of Virilia, the apex predator, and the human would all be decided by one alien girl's heart. The next morning broke in a storm of light and sound. Thunder crawled across the horizon like rolling beasts, and the sky glowed pale blue through the endless canopy of Virilia's jungle. Captain Ryan Cole had stopped sleeping days ago. Every sound made him twitch. Every shadow made his pulse rise. But despite the exhaustion, he kept working on the broken transmitter, the only thing that could call home. He didn't notice the soft footsteps behind him until a voice spoke. "You still trying to fix that dead machine, human?" Ryan froze. Then he smiled faintly. "Sarah, I was starting to think you weren't coming back." The alien girl stepped into the light, her armor glinting under the glow of the mist. Her expression was unreadable. Somewhere between anger and concern. "I should not be here," she said. "If my tribe finds me, they will mark me as traitor." Ryan sat down on a log and nodded. "Then why did you come?" She didn't answer at first. Her eyes drifted to the claw marks on the ship's hull, deep, clean, and ancient. Finally, she said quietly, "I came to understand why the Apex spared you." For a while, they said nothing. Ryan passed her a ration pack, and she accepted it without protest this time. When the jungle wind shifted, he asked, "You said your people worship that creature, the Apex. Why?" Sarah's gaze turned distant. "Because it is older than time itself. It is the spirit of our world, born from the first storms that shaped this planet." When the tribes began to fight over land and power, the Apex appeared. It killed every leader who tried to rule by fear. It spared only those who protected life. Ryan blinked. "So it decides who's good or bad." She nodded. "The Apex kills cruelty, but it does not judge strength, only the heart." He leaned back, letting her words sink in. "Then maybe that's why it didn't kill me." Sarah frowned. "Or maybe it ought. Just waiting." Her tone sent a chill down his spine. Later that night, rain began to fall, thick and heavy, glowing faintly like liquid glass. Ryan sat under the broken wing of his ship, listening to the sound. Sarah sat nearby, her spear across her lap. Suddenly, a cry tore through the jungle. Not a human sound, not even alien speech. It was a scream of pain, deep, wild, and full of agony. Sarah shot to her feet. "That's the Apex." Ryan's eyes widened. "What? You mean the big one?" She nodded, already moving. "Something's wrong. That sound. It never cries." Before he could think, he grabbed his medpack and followed her into the storm. They ran through the jungle, rain pouring like fire. Lightning flashed across the massive trees, revealing broken branches, claw marks, and pools of glowing blue blood. The Apex was wounded. But it wasn't alone. Ahead, in a clearing, they saw two smaller shapes, cubs, huddled near a fallen tree. One was injured, crying weakly. And near them, a pack of ravagers circled, reptilian creatures with long jaws and gleaming eyes. Ryan didn't hesitate. "We have to help them." Sarah grabbed his arm. "No, you touch its young, it will kill you." But Ryan shook free. "Then let it kill me. I'm not watching those things eat its kids alive." Before Sarah could stop him, he ran into the clearing. The ravagers turned, hissing. Ryan swung a broken metal bar, striking the first across the head. The creature shrieked and lunged, but he rolled away, slicing through another with a sharpened fragment of his ship's hull. He was outnumbered, 5-1, but he fought like a man who refused to die. Sarah cursed under her breath and joined the fight. Her spear flashed through the rain, striking with precision. The jungle lit with the sound of steel and claws. Finally, the last ravager fell. Ryan dropped to his knees beside the cubs. One wakened, bleeding badly. Without thinking, he opened his medpack and began treating it, pressing coagulant gel on the wound, wrapping it with cloth torn from his uniform. Sarah stared in disbelief. "Human," she whispered, "you touch the young of the Apex. You will die for this." Ryan looked up, rain streaming down his face. "Then I'll die saving them." The ground trembled, trees split apart, and out of the storm, the Apex predator emerged, wounded, bleeding, but alive, its molten eyes locked on Ryan. The jungle went silent. Sarah dropped to her knees, trembling. "This is your end," she whispered. Ryan didn't move. He kept his hands on the cub, steady and calm. The apex stepped closer, each breath a thunderclap. Then it lowered its massive head and sniffed the air. The cub squeaked weakly. Ryan whispered, "It's okay, little one. You're safe now." And then, something no living being had ever seen happened. The apex leaned down and pressed its massive snout against Ryan's chest, a gesture not of rage, but of recognition. Its breath washed over him, hot and heavy. And when it lifted its head, its eyes glowed softer. It turned and let out a deep, rumbling call, a sound Sarah had never heard. It was thanks. Sarah's hands shook. "Impossible. This cannot be." Ryan stood slowly, looking up at the enormous creature. "It's not a monster," he said softly. "It's a parent." The apex blinked once, then turned its gaze toward Sarah. For a moment, she felt the full weight of its ancient intelligence, like it could see every thought she'd ever had. And then, without another sound, it gathered its young and disappeared into the jungle, leaving behind only silence and rain. Ryan exhaled and dropped to the ground. "Well," he muttered, "guess it didn't kill me." Sarah was still frozen. "You touched its blood, it's young. You should be dead, but it spared you again." He gave her a tired smile. "Maybe I'm just lucky." She shook her head slowly. "No, not luck. Something else. It sees something in you, something even my people cannot." Ryan frowned. "And what's that?" Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "Mercy." They returned to camp long after midnight. Ryan tended his wounds, while Sarah sat silently, watching the fire dance. For the first time in her life, she felt small, not because of fear, but because her world had just changed. The apex had chosen to trust a human, and she had chosen to stand beside him. But far away, beyond the jungle's edge, other eyes watched, eyes filled with jealousy and hate. The Verilian elders had sent scouts. They had seen everything, and by dawn, every tribe across Verilia would know. The alien girl and the human had done the unthinkable, earned the favor of the planet's god-beast. In the shadows, the scouts whispered into their comms, "He must die before the apex turns against us." And so began the true hunt. The rain finally stopped by dawn. The jungle glowed under the pale twin suns, wet leaves glittering like glass. Captain Ryan Cole sat by the smoldering fire, hands shaking from exhaustion. The image of the apex predator and its young still haunted him, the way it had looked at him, not with hunger, but with something deeper. He whispered to himself, "You spared me, twice. Why?" Behind him, a soft voice answered, "Because it saw what I now see." Ryan turned. Sarah stood at the edge of the clearing, half hidden in mist. Her spear was slung behind her back, no longer raised in fear. Ryan gave a tired smile. "You again. I'm starting to think you like sneaking up on me." Sarah stepped closer. "I watched you fight the Ravagers. I watched you heal the cub. You bled for something not even of your kind. My people would never do that." He shrugged. "Maybe your people haven't met the right kind of human yet." Sarah tilted her head, studying him. "You speak strange words, human. But they make sense." They sat by the fire, silent for a long time. The only sound was the jungle's heartbeat, distant roars, the rustle of creatures waking. Sarah stared into the flames. "My tribe thinks the apex has been corrupted. They will hunt you now." Ryan frowned. "Because I saved its young?" She nodded slowly. "They think your touch cursed it." He laughed dryly. "So, saving lives is a curse here?" Sarah's gaze softened. "Among my people, mercy is weakness. But the apex spared you because it saw what we forgot long ago. What's that? Ryan asked. She met his eyes. That strength is not the same as cruelty. Hours passed. Sarah helped him gather food from the jungle, fruits that glowed softly, water trapped in the petals of giant flowers. She taught him which roots to avoid and which vines to burn for light. In return, Ryan showed her how his tools worked. He used a tiny solar cell to power a lamp, and Sarah gasped as light bloomed from his hand. "It's not fire," she whispered. "No," he said with a small grin, "just electricity. Your kind creates light without flame." "Yeah," he said softly, "but sometimes we burn things we shouldn't too." Sarah looked at him for a moment, really looked. The man who fell from the sky wasn't a destroyer. He was a survivor. As the day faded, Ryan asked, "Do you think the apex will come back?" Sarah hesitated. "It watches from afar, always." She pointed toward the mountains. "Somewhere deep in the jungle lies its den, a sacred ground even my people fear to approach. But now, I think it wants you to see it." Ryan blinked. "It wants me to come near its home? Why?" "Maybe," she whispered, "because it has chosen you." That night, the wind changed. The jungle turned silent again, not peaceful, but waiting. From far away came the deep hum of engines. Ryan stood. His blood ran cold. That's not your people, is it?" Sarah's eyes widened. "No, that sound is not ours." A bright light cut through the trees. A human search drone, hovering low. Ryan's beacon atoll used to have finally worked. His rescue was coming. But the signal had drawn more than help. From the shadows, a Varelian scout whispered into his comm crystal, "The humans' allies have come. The prophecy was true. They bring war." He turned back toward the jungle. "The elders must know." By morning, Sarah's tribe surrounded the valley. Hundreds of hunters, spears that glowed with plasma. The High Elder raised his staff and shouted to the crowd, "The human has deceived the apex. He calls others from the stars to conquer our world. Kill him before the beasts betray us." Sarah stood at the front, trembling. "No," she shouted. "He didn't call soldiers. He called for help." The elder glared. "You defend him still?" Sarah's heart pounded. She looked at the man by the broken ship. Weak, dirty, wounded, and still kind. Then she looked at her tribe. Strong, proud, and filled with hate. She made her choice. When the first spear was thrown, she moved faster than anyone expected. Her weapon struck the ground in front of Ryan, deflecting the blast meant for his heart. She stood between him and her people. Her voice shook the valley. "You call yourselves protectors of Varelia, yet you would kill the one being who showed it mercy. He saved the apex's young. He fought for life." The elder's voice thundered back, "He is not of our blood." Sarah lifted her chin. "Then maybe our blood is not as pure as we believed." The crowd roared. Some shouted for her death. Others hesitated, uncertain, afraid. Then the jungle itself moved. The ground trembled. Birds fled, and the apex predator appeared from the mist. Its roar silenced everything. The hunters fell to their knees as the massive creature approached, glowing eyes fixed on Sarah and Ryan. It stopped beside them and lowered its head to Ryan again. The entire tribe gasped. The elder's staff dropped from his hands. Impossible. The apex stood guard over the human and the alien girl, just as it had in the storm. Ryan whispered, "Sarah, what's happening?" She could barely breathe. "It has chosen." The predator turned its head toward the tribe and released a deep, thunderous growl. It wasn't rage, it was command. Every creature in the jungle echoed the sound. Birds, beasts, even the trees seemed to shiver with life. It was as if the planet itself was speaking through its guardian. The message was clear. The human belongs here. The elder stumbled backward. No, this cannot be. The planet betrays us. Sarah stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. No, it is we who betrayed it, with fear and hate, but this human reminded the apex what we once were. She turned to Ryan, her eyes glistening. And reminded me too. Ryan looked at her, speechless. Sarah! Before he could speak, the elder screamed, "Kill them all!" The hunters raised their weapons, and the apex roared. The sound shattered trees, cracked the earth, and sent the army flying backward like leaves in the wind. Lightning erupted from the sky, striking around the clearing, not to destroy, but to warn. The elder fell to his knees, covering his face. Mercy! Great guardian, mercy! The apex lowered its head once more, then turned and disappeared into the jungle, leaving behind a silence so deep it hurt. Ryan sat down slowly, his heart still racing. That was close. Sarah smiled faintly, kneeling beside him. You saved its young, and now it saved you. He looked at her. Seems like your planet has a way of returning favors. She nodded. It always has. We just forgot to listen. The remaining hunters watched in silence as Sarah helped Ryan to his feet. No one dared attack. For the first time in generations, a human and a Varelian stood side by side, not as enemies, but as something new. Far above, the clouds broke open, revealing a sky filled with stars. Ryan looked up, whispering, "Guess humanity's not so alone after all." Sarah followed his gaze. Perhaps your kind fell from the sky not to conquer, but to remind us what we lost. He smiled softly. And what's that? She looked at him. The man who risked his life to save a beast. The stranger who chose mercy over fear. Trust, she said, and hope. But as peace settled over the jungle, a faint red light blinked on the broken transmitter behind them. A distant voice crackled through static. Captain Cole, this is command. We've located your signal. Extraction incoming. Sarah's smile faded. The humans were coming, and Varelia was not ready for what came next. The jungle slept under silver light. Mist drifted between the trees like breath, wrapping the camp in quiet peace. For the first time since the crash, Captain Ryan Cole thought the nightmare was ending. The apex had spared them. Sarah's people had stood down. Maybe, just maybe, there was a future here. But hope on Varelia never lasted long. A red glow pulsed on the broken transmitter. Static whispered through the air. Then came the voice. Captain Cole, we've locked on your beacon. Hold position. Rescue team inbound. Ryan froze. Sarah turned, eyes wide. Rescue? From the stars? He nodded slowly. My people. They found me. The words should have filled him with joy. Instead, a cold weight pressed against his heart. Because if Earth's forces landed here, they'd see an alien world full of resources, and they'd do what humans always did. Take. By dawn, the jungle trembled with sound, engines cutting through clouds, air burning as dropships descended. Birds scattered, animals fled, even the wind stopped. Sarah stood beside Ryan, staring at the sky as metal giants fell from heaven. Her voice was barely a whisper. You said they would help you. They will, Ryan said quickly. They just don't understand yet. But his words sounded hollow, even to himself. The first dropship landed in a burst of flame, flattening the inbound. Irby trees. Human soldiers poured out, armor gleaming, rifles raised, visors reflecting the alien light. A man stepped forward, tall and sharp-eyed, his uniform clean and heavy with rank. Commander Rees. He grinned when he saw Ryan. "Captain Cole, we thought you were dead." Ryan nodded slowly. "I almost was, until she saved me." He gestured to Sarah. The commander's smile faltered. "That is one of them." "She's not the enemy," Ryan said. "Her people thought I was a threat, but—" Rees cut him off with a raised hand. "Save the story. Command wants this planet secured. Your beacon transmitted full data, oxygen-rich, mineral-dense, multiple biotic species. This place is gold." Ryan felt his stomach drop. "Commander, you can't. These people live here. It's their home." Rees laughed softly. "Cole, you've been alone too long. You're starting to sound like them." Sarah stepped forward, eyes blazing. "This world is not yours to take." Rees turned to her with mild disgust. "And you speak our tongue? Charming. Tell your kind to stay out of the way, alien, and maybe you'll live long enough to see progress." Ryan moved between them. "Commander, listen to me. The Apex. There's a creature here, powerful enough to tear your ships apart. It protects this planet if we start a war." Rees smiled coldly. "Then we'll kill it. Same way we've killed everything else that stood in our way." Sarah's spear twitched in her grip. "You cannot kill what the planet itself guards." Rees raised his sidearm casually. "Watch me." The soldiers fanned out, planting beacons and scanners. Flames from their thrusters scorched the soil, turning glowing vines into ash. Sarah's tribe watched from the shadows, horrified. The High Elder whispered, "The Sky Demons return. The girl's mercy has doomed us all." Within minutes, the balance of Virilia began to collapse, beasts fleeing deeper into the mountains, the jungle itself dimming as the soil burned. Ryan's voice cracked as he shouted over the roar of engines, "Stop! You're killing it!" But Rees didn't stop. He ordered a drone strike on the tree line to clear the perimeter. The explosions lit the morning sky. The shockwave threw Ryan to the ground. When the smoke cleared, Sarah was kneeling beside a dying beast, its scales cracked, glowing blood leaking into the dirt. Her hands shook. You did this." Ryan's throat tightened. "I didn't know they'd—" "Sarah, I swear, I didn't—" Before he could finish, a roar unlike any before shook the world. The apex predator had awakened. From the mountain came thunder, trees split, rocks shattered, and the massive creature emerged, eyes burning brighter than the sun. Its roar ripped through the air, tearing the clouds apart. Every soldier turned their weapons on it, but fear rooted them in place. Commander Rees barked orders. "Fire at will!" Gunfire filled the air, flashes of light cutting through mist. The bullets hit the apex like rain on steel. It barely noticed. With one sweep of its claws, it crushed a dropship like paper. With another, it sent shockwaves that flattened an entire squad. Ryan ran forward, waving his arms. "Stop! You'll only make it worse!" Rees shouted back. "Get down, Cole! That thing's hostile!" "It's not hostile!" Ryan screamed. "It's protecting its home!" But no one listened. Sarah grabbed Ryan's hand. "We have to move!" She pulled him toward the jungle, away from the battlefield. Behind them, the apex stormed through the fire, roaring in rage and pain as plasma rounds burned into its hide. The sight was unbearable. Ryan turned. "They're going to kill it!" Sarah's voice broke. "And when it dies, the planet dies with it." They ran through smoke and falling debris until they reached the ridge overlooking the battle. From there, Ryan could see everything: the soldiers, the explosions, the burning forest, and the creature that had once trusted him being slaughtered by his own kind. He fell to his knees. "This is my fault." Sarah knelt beside him, gripping his shoulders. "No, it is ours now. together. Below them, the apex collapsed to one knee, roaring in agony. Its cub screamed from the tree line. Ryan's heart shattered. He remembered touching one of them, feeling its tiny heartbeat under his hands. He couldn't let it end like this. He stood. "Sarah, I have to stop them." She grabbed his arm. "They'll kill you." "Maybe. But if I don't try, what kind of man am I?" Sarah looked into his eyes, and for the first time, she saw not a human invader, but something sacred. She nodded slowly. "Then we fight together." They descended the ridge through fire and smoke. Ryan ran into the open, waving his arms at the soldiers. "Stop shooting! You're making it worse!" he yelled. Rees aimed his weapon at him. "Cole, step aside. That's an order." Ryan shook his head. "No." The commander's voice turned ice cold. "You're disobeying direct command." "I'm following a higher one," Ryan said. "The one that says we don't kill what we don't understand." For a moment, no one moved. Then Rees fired. The shot hit Ryan in the shoulder, spinning him backward. Sarah screamed his name. The apex roared again, a sound that shook mountains. Its eyes locked on Ryan's fallen body. Then something changed inside the beast. The glowing veins across its body turned crimson. Energy rippled through the air as the ground cracked beneath its claws. Rees shouted, "Fall back! Fall back!" But it was too late. The apex unleashed a shockwave of pure force, tearing through the soldiers, their weapons, their ships. The jungle burned white with energy, and then silence. When the smoke cleared, only Ryan, Sarah, and the apex remained. Sarah knelt beside Ryan, pressing her hands to the wound. "Stay with me. Don't close your eyes." Ryan smiled weakly. "Guess I wasn't very good at following orders." She laughed through tears. "You humans are all the same, stubborn." The apex lowered its head beside them, rumbling softly. Ryan reached out, his blood mixing "Nang" with the rain. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I tried." The apex blinked slowly, then released a low, mournful sound, almost like words. Forgiveness. In the distance, more ships appeared, larger, heavier, darker. Reinforcements. Sarah looked up, horror filling her eyes. "They're coming again." Ryan tried to stand, but fell back, weak. "We have to warn the apex. They'll bring bombs this time." Sarah clenched her fists. "Then they will learn. Veralia protects its own." She turned toward the beast, her voice steady. "Guardian, it is time." The apex lifted its head and roared, a call that echoed across mountains, answered by hundreds of smaller voices from every corner of the jungle. The planet itself was waking, and humanity had no idea what storm it had just unleashed. The sky over Veralia burned crimson. Dozens of human warships hung above the clouds, engines glowing like false suns. Their shadows turned the jungle below into night. Captain Ryan Cole could barely stand. His shoulder throbbed from the commander's bullet, and smoke still rose from the battlefield where metal and roots had clashed. Beside him, Sarah held him upright while the wounded apex predator crouched behind them, its breathing deep and uneven. Ryan whispered, "They're coming back. With everything." Sarah looked at the sky. "Then the planet will answer." The last stand. The first bombs fell. Bright lances of fire that struck the mountains beyond the valley. But before they hit, the ground itself rippled. Roots burst upward, weaving into a living shield. The jungle had awakened. Ryan stared in disbelief. "The planet's fighting back?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Veralia feels pain as we do. When the apex roars, the world listens." She touched Ryan's hand. "But it listens to you now, too." High above, the human fleet received a single transmission, garbled, half static. Commander Rees, stand down. The target may be sentient. Repeat, stand. The message cut off as lightning tore across the sky. Rees sneered. Too late for mercy. He ordered a full bombardment. As the fleet opened fire, the apex raised its head to the heavens and released a roar that split the clouds. Every beast across the continent answered, thousands of voices rising as one. The air shimmered with invisible energy, bending the bombs mid-fall and hurling them harmlessly into the sea. The soldiers on the ground watched in awe as vines thick as towers coiled around the wrecked dropships, tearing them apart piece by piece. No human weapon had ever faced a living planet before. Ryan stumbled forward, clutching his wound. "Stop!" he shouted toward the sky, though no one could hear him. "Stop the attack! You're killing both sides!" His words vanished in the thunder. Between two worlds, Sarah caught him as he fell to his knees. "You cannot reach them." He shook his head. "Then I'll make them listen another way." Ryan looked to the apex. The creature's molten eyes met his, ancient and full of sorrow. "Let me show them," he whispered. "Let me be the bridge." The apex lowered its massive head. Steam rose from its wounds as energy pulsed through its scales into Ryan's hand. For a heartbeat, man and beast were one. Ryan saw flashes, centuries of memory, storms birthing oceans, creatures rising and falling. Virelia watching it all. He felt its heartbeat, slow and endless, and its fear of being destroyed again by those who came from the stars. Sarah stepped back, whispering in awe, "It shares its spirit with you." The choice. Ryan turned toward the mountains where the fleet's command ship hovered. "Patch me through," he said weakly, raising his wrist transmitter. Static, then Rees's voice crackled through. "Cole, you alive down there?" "I'm alive," Ryan said, his voice rough. "And so is the planet you're about to murder." Rees laughed. "You think I care? We're claiming this world for Earth. Then you'll have to burn me with it." A pause. "You're serious?" "Completely." Behind him, the apex let out a low growl that rolled like thunder through the microphone. Rees's tone faltered. "What was that?" "Virelia," Ryan said. "The world you woke up. It's listening. It knows who pulls the trigger." Silence stretched across the channel. Ryan whispered, "We came here to explore, not to conquer. If you fire again, you won't just face a creature. You'll face a planet that remembers." Then he cut the transmission. The human heart. For long minutes, nothing moved. The ships hovered, their weapons still hot. Then, one by one, their lights dimmed. Engines powered down. The bombardment stopped. Rees's voice returned, quieter now. "Cole, what do you want us to do?" Ryan looked at Sarah, then at the wounded apex beside him. "Leave. Go home. Tell them humanity met something greater, and didn't destroy it." Rees hesitated. Then, slowly, he gave the order. "All units, disengage. Prepare for extraction." The ships turned toward the stars and vanished into the clouds. The silence after, when the last echo faded, the jungle breathed again. Rain began to fall, gentle and clean, washing the ash from the leaves. Ryan collapsed, and Sarah caught him. "You did it," she said softly. "You stopped them." He smiled faintly. "No, we did." The apex leaned close, its eyes glowing pale gold now, not red. It touched its forehead to Ryan's, an ancient gesture of honor. Then it turned and limped toward the deep forest, its cubs following. For the first time in centuries, Virelia was calm. The farewell. Days passed. Ryan's wounds healed slowly under Sarah's care. The Verelian tribes returned from hiding, staring at the human who had saved their world. The High Elder approached him. "We feared you, human. Yet you stood between fire and life. You have our respect and our debt." Ryan shook his head. "Keep your world safe. That's enough." "Set." Era smiled. "You sound like one of us now." He looked toward the sky. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." When the final rescue craft arrived, a small shuttle sent only for him, Ryan hesitated at the ramp. Sarah stood beside the glowing river, wind moving through her silver hair. "You're leaving," she said quietly. "I have to tell them what we found," he answered. "They need to know life out here isn't something to take. It's something to protect." Sarah stepped closer. "And if they don't listen?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Then I'll make them." He reached out his hand. She took it without fear. For a moment, human and alien stood together under the rising suns, proof that trust could grow even on a battlefield. The apex's distant roar echoed across the valley, not in warning this time, but in farewell. As the shuttle lifted, Ryan watched the jungle recede beneath him. Verelia shimmered like a living jewel, alive, aware, forgiving. He whispered into the recorder. "Mission log. Final entry. Humanity came to Verelia searching for a resource, and found a soul. We are not alone, and maybe for the first time, we don't have to be afraid." The stars swallowed the ship, leaving behind only rain and the faint heartbeat of a planet at peace.